Hello, welcome to this video, and this video is going to be called War of the Worlds, How Punk Didn't Destroy Prog, right? For me, this album here that you're looking at, especially for anyone who lives here in the UK, is brilliant evidence that punk never destroyed prog, right? Famous at the time of release in 1978 was this album that anyone in the UK of my age will know this. This really crossed over into the cultural mainstream. But when I mentioned this on a recent video, a lot of people in other countries are going, what is this album, you know? And so I thought, for those here in the UK who love this album and see it as probably one of the top greatest progressive rock albums ever made, it would be enjoyable to revisit it, especially as I have an original vinyl copy, which is falling apart, but we can have an explore of that. But also, for those of you who don't know about this album, you can learn a little bit more about it. You may want to go and check it out. This is an epic album created by Jeff Wayne. It's a double album that tells the story of H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds. It incorporates a progressive jazz rock type fusion band. It's also has got a full orchestra on here, and it's also got guest actors that play key roles in the story. Right at the top is the narrator, Richard Burton, the late great Welsh actor. So this really adds a lot of gravitas to this album. And on the back cover, you can see they put his name inside a little box, as they should. But we've also got Julie Covington on here, David Essex, Justin Hayward, Phil Lynott, Joe Partridge, who's a guitarist, and he plays the Martian, and he plays him on electric guitar, lovely touch, and Chris Thompson. Right, here's the album. If I open up, the album's got some incredible artwork. Can you see that there? Right, that's the cover. Look at that, absolutely prog epic extravagance. And this is what's inside. No text, just that incredible view of early on in the story when the Victorians find this flying saucer ditched in Horsell Common. And there's a little tiny bit at the right and the bottom that says, "The chances of anything coming from Mars are 1,000,000 to 1, he said." Right, this painting is by an artist called Peter Goodfellow, right? The album also came with a booklet, which I still have, and mine is falling apart. Here's the booklet. And when we open it up, and mine's detached, right? We have that same photo there, and we have the credits. I'm going to read through the credits of this album. So the executive producer is Jerry Wayne for a company called ORP. Who Jerry Wayne is, I'm not too sure. I assume he's related to Jeff Wayne. This album was composed, orchestrated, conducted, and produced by Jeff Wayne. The lyrics, right, are by Gary Osborne. Right, the lyrics are very important. And on here we have a full libretto of the album, which not only has the lyrics but also has the narration that goes in between and tells the story. So the journalist who's telling the story is played by Richard Burton. Beth is played by Julie Covington, who is a great sort of musical theatre actress, brilliant singer. The artilleryman is played by David Essex, of course, was an actor that came to prominence in the films That'll Be the Day and Stardust, two of my favourite films about rock music, but also had a ton of hit records here in the UK. Justin Hayward for Moody Blues comes here and sings on two songs, Forever Autumn and The Eve of War. Forever Autumn is a beautiful Moody Blues-esque song that went in the charts at the time. The Parson is played brilliantly by Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy. The Heat Ray, which is the Martian weapon that kills everybody, is played by Joe Partridge, as I said, on guitars. We've also got a track called Thunder Child, which is performed by Chris Thompson. Now, the lineup on the actual album, on guitars, as I said, we've got Joe Partridge on that sort of really signature electric fuzz tone, sort of ray gun sound. And we also have the great Chris Spedding on guitar. We've also got on bass Herbie Flowers. Herbie Flowers is like one of the UK's most important session bass players, probably most known for coming up with that beautiful sliding bass line on Walk on the Wild Side by Lou Reed, which I believe he got paid like something like 60 quid for or something at the time, and I think now he gets a royalty payment. I don't know, that's worth looking up. On percussion we have the incredible Ray Cooper and Barry D'Souza and Roy Jones. Big lot of percussion on here. Keyboards, we've got Ken Prof Freeman and Jeff Wayne. We've got George Fenton on tar, santur and zither. And we've also got Jerry Wayne on a ton of synthesizers. Right, so the drums are by Barry Morgan. He's another great UK session player. All right, the album tells a story. Right, it's illustrated. In 1978, when this album came out, I would sit there. My mum and dad bought this album, not me, and we would sit down and like it was a film. And I would sit looking at this huge artwork that they've got. Look at this here, right? This was more than just an album. It sold millions and millions of copies. I'm just going to go through the book. Mine is literally falling apart because me and my brother would sit and, over and over again listen to this incredible album. Here's a depiction of the red weed engulfing a pretty British English village. I'm going to go through because I want you to see the whole work. This is another beautiful painting of the pastor, Parson Nathaniel. They must be cast out and I have been chosen to do it. Who's played by Phil Lynott on this. And look at that. Can you see that? I hope I'm holding these up because I can't see. It's so big. Albums had such an emotional effect on you when you bought them. Here is an incredible, panoramic painting of this idea of living underground to escape the Martians. And then right at the end, and I'm going to have to try and hold this together, is this incredible shot. Mine's ripped apart. Of what kills the Martians in the end, which is, of course, is Mother Nature. Let me see the birds. Can you see that? Right at the back of the album, we have these little vignettes of the people who play a role in that. In the great Richard Burton up over here. Over here. So this album, in terms of sound, is full-on progressive rock. The tracks bleed into one another. It's almost like it is one track from beginning to end. I don't think it ever lets up. The only time it lets up is when it sort of fades out to go on to side 2 and the side 3. So this is like one track all the way through composed with some incredible themes. It's full-on progressive rock. But for 1978, what's interesting, it also kicks like a disco record. This is disco prog. And I think it's one of the things that made it so accessible at the time. Disco is the real anathema to prog, not punk. Punk is just the natural evolution of prog in a way. Disco's the complete opposite. It's just light and frilly, and it's not heavy or weighty. It doesn't, try and change the culture or say any grand themes. That's not what disco is. It's like frothy, party music. It's designed to be consumed in a nightclub, dancing and having a drink. Prog is designed to be consumed, by people in their living room, with a few, substances rolled up into little cigarettes. That's what prog is. It's a whole completely different thing. Here, Jeff Wayne very cleverly mixes the two together, and I think he was able to have hit records, have sections played on the radio, and I wouldn't be surprised that if there was a few discos in London around about 78, 79 that were playing bits of this track, which is really, really interesting. The reason why I wanted to bring it in is because it's so big, ubiquitous. I think it sold something like 10 million copies. Jeff Wayne's gone on to do other versions of it. He's released it as a stage play. It's really what Rick Wakeman was trying to do with his albums earlier on, especially the King Arthur one where he took it on ice. That whole idea that seems so preposterous, it seems to be played out so successfully here by Jeff Wayne, and it then sets up for the modern musical theatre experience that we have now. You know, when people go off to see something like We Will Rock You by Queen, to me it has its roots in this. And this is another area that I've never mentioned on the channel, where you can see the influence of progressive rock dripping through into all these different areas, you know. It's an absolutely groundbreaking album. I absolutely love this album. There's nothing about it I don't like. It isn't light prog. It's accessible, but I wouldn't say it's light prog or any less heavier than Close to the Edge or Lamb Lies Down on Broadway for being accessible, because of the huge epic vision of this album. Even those bands, even Yes and Genesis, you know, and ELP, never managed to pull something off like this with a full orchestra that tells a story at this level, with this budget, with people like Richard Burton narrating on it. It's an absolute and incredible achievement. So, for all you proggers out there, I hope, British proggers that is, I hope I've taken it down memory lane pulling this one out. For those of you who don't know it, you can go and check it out. I teach 16-year-old kids. And we've done this. I'm trying to put it all back together here. We've done this album a couple of times. A couple of students got together and said we want to do War of the Worlds, and they worked out the opening theme, which goes on for about 10 minutes. And they played it and they loved it. And I thought, this is really interesting that none of these kids are walking in trying to, you know, reference, Genesis or ELP. And yet they know this, because here in the UK, it had a huge cultural impact. And I always find this very important when we're discussing the importance of different genres, to be able to trace these cultural impacts. Because when something has a cultural impact, in other words, it goes outside the limits of the genre. You know, so a track like Bohemian Rhapsody is so ubiquitous, and the fact that, say, it was included in that film. Oh God, this happens when you get older. Not Bill and Ted. Wayne's World. See, a proper YouTuber cuts that out, but I think you like that bit. You like it when I sort of go and try and remember stuff. Yes, so in Wayne's World, for example, when we have that classic car scene, you know, which I think they all ended up with whiplash from having to do the head banging, you know, when they put Bohemian Rhapsody on. I was watching an interview with Michael Myers about that scene, and apparently they wanted another track, and he held out, says no, it has to be Bohemian Rhapsody. And why? And the reason is because even though Bohemian Rhapsody is so successful, there's something too proggy about it. The mainstream don't want to ever go down that road. No, let's just put some AC/DC on it. No, it's got to be Bohemian Rhapsody, because those in the know what that means. The reverence that rock fans have for that track is different. And it's like going to worship, you know, and that's, so the inclusion of that in that film, these types of things has pushed Bohemian Rhapsody into the mainstream. Now, I listen to that track and go, my God, this is full-on prog. And in a way, in terms of the way the vocals work and the way those vocals are pushed through mass overdubbage to sound like a full opera, that is far out prog. You know, it's something which we would expect, say, Gentle Giant to do. Queen are able to interweave very complex musical material into a way that is accessible. And I think Jeff Wayne does the same thing on this beauty here, on this one. So, just wanted to talk about this album and feature it a little bit. So, if you like this video, press like. If you want to see more videos like this, press subscribe or ring the notification bell. If you want to, what else do you want to do? Support me, right? If you want to support me and pay me a little bit of money every month for some exclusive content, which is far more interesting than what I do here, because I'm allowed to do all sorts of strange things, then become a patron, and the link's down below. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. I've decided this week to do a couple of shorter videos because I'm making these great big long form videos, like an hour long at the moment, and people are watching for about 15 minutes. They'll probably end up watching this for about 5 minutes, won't they? That's what'll happen here. But anyway, I've tried my best. You know, I'm trying to give you what you want. You know, can't help it if you don't want it. Anyway, I'm going to go now. See you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.